Buenos dias from Peru. Today we are here to talk about EF Ultimate Break's Peru and Machu Picchu adventure. If you have been watching my vlogs on this trip, you know it has been a mixed bag. There have been some really fun, good days, and there have been some really low bad days. And today we're going to talk about all of it. So just a disclaimer, if you've been watching my vlogs, you know this, but just in case, we did get stranded at Machu Picchu. I'm laughing now because it just sounds so ridiculous, but yes, we were stranded at Machu Picchu for a full extra day, longer than we were supposed to. I will talk about that at the end of this video. All my other thoughts and opinions, I'm pushing that to the side for now just to give a unbiased review of this tour. We'll discuss the Machu Picchu stranded stuff at the end. So in this vlog, I have all my notes ready. I'm gonna go over an overview of the trip, a day-by-day breakdown of what we did every day, my spending for this trip, and then I'll talk about the Machu Picchu debacle. So first off, it's called the Peru and Machu Picchu adventure. It is a 10-day trip. 10 days, because if you take out the travel day at the beginning and the 2 travel days at the end, you're really only here for 7 days. So it's really short, but it goes really fast because you're always moving, going. So on this trip, we were supposed to have 38 people. We ended up only having 37 because one girl got so sick on her flight over here that she could not continue with the tour. I will say her dream is to see Machu Picchu, and I think it was for the best, because if she saw Machu Picchu with us, it wouldn't have been the experience she was hoping for. So I hope that she can come back one day and experience it in a better setting. So of the 37 people on our trip, we had 21 was the youngest and 35 was the oldest. It was very easy to tell who was the youngest. Lots of drinking, lots of drama. I'm not saying this is good or bad, but it was very clear. And then the youngest person on our trip, I'll just address this now, was making very racist remarks, had a lot of microaggressions. I hope she can improve herself and learn from this. But if you're going to come to a country where a Spanish-speaking country, and get mad that they only speak Spanish, or you're going to make a lot of comments about people in your EF group or your tour group or whatever based on their race, absolutely not okay. You should not be on a group tour. You should go be reflecting and becoming a better person. I'll just say that. I hope that she learns from this, and I think she got a talking to from our tour director in EF, and hopefully she can learn from it. So other than that, other than a little bit of drama with like some of the younger girls, it was a good trip. I think as they age, they'll be doing just fine. But okay, so let's go day by day. So like I said, there's 10 days in this trip. I'm not going to do a super detailed breakdown, but I do want to say that we went on the New Year's Eve version of this trip. There was really nothing special for New Year's Eve. We just got to experience one night of partying in Cusco. However, some things were flipped around based on New Year's Eve and my tour director's decisions to help us acclimate to the altitude. So this is not the exact itinerary that is on the EF Ultimate Break website, but this is what we followed. So on day 1, we flew to Lima. I flew from Chicago O'Hare to Miami to Lima. We had some flight delays due to weather getting out of Chicago. Not in Chicago, surprisingly, but in Florida. But I made it. I had to catch a different flight, a later flight from Miami to Lima, and so did a bunch of people. Some people didn't even arrive until 6 a.m. on day 2, so it was kind of a mess of a flight day. But it was the day after Christmas, so it was kind of expected, but it still just wasn't a great start to a trip. It was kind of a whole mess. So that was day 1. Then you'll just check into your hotel in Lima. On day 2, we did a full day tour of Lima. We walked around our neighborhood, which was Miraflores, and then we had some free time for lunch in the neighborhood, which was really good. The food in Lima is so good. Get some seafood if you like it. Incredible. And then we had a guided tour of like the downtown area. We got to see some pyramids, which didn't know those were there. We got to tour like the catacombs and just wander around. So I liked Lima. You only have one day there though. And then we had our welcome dinner, which was pretty good. It was some like beef thing. Honestly, at this point, I don't remember, even though it's only been like 10 days since this happened. But so on day 2, you either get a second free day in Lima, or you can do what most of my group did, which was an optional excursion to Huacachina in the Balistas Islands, which is where you can see like seals, birds on like a boat tour. This was like honestly one of my favorite days. Maybe my favorite day. It's a very long day. You have to leave at like 4 a.m. and the excursion costs $90 through EF. So we left at like 4 a.m. got on our boat tour at like 8, toured the Balistas Islands. We had some free time for lunch at this like hotel place. The food was fine. I don't like when I'm like forced to eat at certain places and there's not like options, and there was a lot of that on this trip, but it was one of those, but it was fine. And then we went to Huacachina, which is like the sand dunes in the desert. We went on ATV like buggy rides where you're not driving them. You're in a car or in a ATV buggy thing thing of like 10 people, and there's like a professional driver. You're like strapped in. You're doing that. You get to get out and take some pictures. Sandboard if you want, which was super fun. Do it. I'm glad I didn't chicken out. And then you get back to Lima at like 10 p.m. Long day, but still worth it. Probably my favorite day of the trip. And then on day 4, you just fly to Cusco. According to the itinerary, this is a tour of the Sacred Valley. I wish we did that, as you'll see in a few minutes, but instead we just landed in Cusco around like noon or 1, and then had some free time to adjust. We got lunch at like this Italian place, and then we went and saw like the White Jesus. It's like a smaller version of Christ the Redeemer. We went to like an alpaca factory thing, where a bunch of people bought like good, maybe overpriced like clothes and sweaters and stuff. And then we just had a 2-hour drive to the Sacred Valley, where we stayed for we were supposed to stay for 2 nights. So we checked into that hotel. On day 5, we had a very long day to Machu Picchu. Our train left at like 6:40 in the morning. It's like a hour and a half train. Well, okay, so actually from the hotel we stayed at, we had a half-hour bus ride to Ollantaytambo. Then we had an hour and a half train up to Aguascalientes, or like the Machu Picchu town. We had some free time there in the morning, which I'm not quite sure was necessary, but maybe I just spent too much time in that town. So we had some time for breakfast. Some people got massages. Then at noon, we had our entry to Machu Picchu. We did circuit 3. We were supposed to do 2, but I guess my tour director switched it to 3 because of like the cloud coverage. We would be able to see more or something. I don't know if that's true because it ended up being pretty sunny, but whatever. I enjoyed it. Machu Picchu, like, it's a wonder of the world. It's cool. Is it worth all the effort to get up there? I don't know, but it was cool to see. I'm glad we got to see it and nothing like ruined that for us. So we were there until like 3:30, and to get to Machu Picchu from the town, you have another 30-minute bus ride. So after we were done touring, we took a bus back down to the town. That's when we found out that there was a train crash. Unfortunately, one person did pass away in the crash, so thoughts and prayers to his family, friends. So our train was delayed, so we had a lot more time to spend that night. So we had the whole night free, but if your day goes as planned, you should leave Aguascalientes around 7, take that hour and a half long train back to Ollantaytambo, and then a 30-minute ride back to your hotel. So we were supposed to get back to our hotel at like 10. Obviously that didn't happen. So we just spent the night in Aguascalientes, so we won't be doing that. But after that, I got like a massage after Machu Picchu. It was really nice. We got some dinner, went to some bars. So on day 6, we were supposed to do the Sacred Valley, but we were stranded in Machu Picchu, which I'll talk about later. So I can't tell you about the Sacred Valley. I wish I could, but I can't. And then that night, you just arrived to Cusco, which we did do. So we checked into our hotel in Cusco on night 6, and that was New Year's Eve. So we thankfully did get to celebrate New Year's in Cusco as planned. And then on day 7 and 8, you have 2 free days in Cusco. Our tour director offered us a lot of like optional excursions, like cooking classes, art classes, chocolate classes, a bunch of other stuff. Not too many people took her up on those, I think, because people were tired, but the people who did like the chocolate class said it was super fun. And same with the art classes. So on day 7, during our free day that evening, we did the optional pisco sour workshop, which cost $50. I thought it was fun. I like making cocktails and like stuff, so we did a tasting. We got to make the cocktails and we got tapas. My only complaint about it is that it was so slow. We were there for like over 3 hours because it would just take forever between each tasting or each like little activity, and we'd just be like sitting there. So that was my only complaint about that, but otherwise I recommend it. I think according to the itinerary, the pisco sour workshop is on day 8, and then the other optional activity, which is Rainbow Mountain, is on day 7, but we flipped those because of New Year's Eve, so people weren't going on the Rainbow Mountain hike, which leaves at 3 a.m. on New Year's Day. So day 8 was also a free day. I didn't do the Rainbow Mountain hike, but the people who went said it was worth it. There was snow up there, and like their pictures weren't like you see on Instagram, but I think they still had a good time. That was $60, but like I said, normally that's day 7, and the pisco sour workshop is on day 8, but we flipped those for New Year's. And then on day 8, we just had our farewell dinner. It was fine. It was at like a place with like music and dancing, like a little like band was there, which was fun, and then the food was fine. And then on day 9, everyone just flew back to Lima at like noon. I didn't. I stayed here a little longer, which we will see in my next 2 videos, and then had a few hours of free time in Miraflores again, the neighborhood that we stayed in on the first few nights, before heading back to the airport for their overnight flights home. And on day 10, everyone landed back at home in the US. So that was a day-by-day breakdown. If you really look at it, if you take Machu Picchu out of this itinerary, there is not a lot going on. Like I said, obviously I enjoyed Machu Picchu, but I think my favorite day was the Huacachina day trip on day 3. But really, if you take those out, it's a lot of free time and a lot of travel time. So just keep that in mind. If you want to see Machu Picchu, this is a good way to do it. If you want to learn any more about Peru, I'm not sure this is the right trip. I've learned a lot more about Peru on my couple days alone, which like I said, you'll see in my next 2 videos. But yeah, it's a lot of go travel time, sitting in buses, planes, trains, all those stuff. You don't get a lot of sleep on this trip. It's 7 days of back to back to back to back. You don't get time to rest until like your free days on day 7. You don't get a lot of time to rest until your free days on day 7 and 8. And even then you're going to want to explore Cusco and do all the things. So not a lot of free time, but overall, I do think it's a good trip if you want to see Machu Picchu. I'm glad I got to see Machu Picchu. Is this one of my favorite EF trips? No. This is my 11th trip. Absolutely not one of my favorites. It's honestly probably in the bottom 3. And that has nothing to do with being stranded at Machu Picchu. Let me just make that very clear. I just think it's a whole lot of travel and go for not doing much. And maybe I would change my mind if we got to tour the Sacred Valley, because I feel like that was a big history day. But obviously we didn't get that. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. But I think this trip is a great way to see Machu Picchu, but not for much else learning about Peru. Just want to put that out there. So let's do my spending breakdown, what I spent during 7 days here in Peru on this tour. I broke it down by category, and I have the cost in soles and US dollars. I'll be honest, I spent a lot more on food this trip than I expected. It's not that things were expensive, but if you want to eat like safe food, you have to go to like nicer restaurants, and my food cost is going to be lower because it was hard for me to eat with the altitude. So I wasn't getting like crazy big meals, and I was not drinking. I think I paid for maybe 1 beer on this trip because I wanted to stay safe and like healthy with the altitude. But so keep that in mind. If you're going to be drinking, this will be higher. If you want like full meals, your food costs will be higher, but I think this is a pretty decent breakdown. So on medicine, I bought 2 packs of altitude meds in Lima, and you can just go to the pharmacy and get them over the counter, and they've been helping me, I think. So on those, I spent 70 soles or $21 US, which I think we paid too much, honestly, at the one pharmacy. So just keep that in mind, it might be less. And then on food, which includes like snacks, dinners, breakfasts, I didn't really drink coffee, but mostly dinners and lunches, I spent 500 soles or $150 US. Like I said, I spent a lot. Like, you're buying a lot more food on this trip than I think you would expect, and you're eating at pretty set restaurants because that's just like where the group goes, so that's where you're eating. I just didn't buy very big portions. Like, a lot of times I would just get appetizers and stuff, and I wasn't getting like drinks or anything. So $150 US is probably like a lower. So $150 US on food is probably in the lower range, so I would budget a little more. And then on souvenirs, despite having a mixed experience here, I spent a lot on souvenirs. A lot of people did. I spent 480 soles or $142 US. I got myself a baby alpaca blanket. I think it's fake. I don't know. I think everything I bought was fake, so keep that in mind. If you're buying real stuff, it'll be a lot more. I got 6 scarves for friends and family, and then I spent like $50-ish on some art. I like to collect art when I travel, like just small pieces, but I got like 3 paintings, and then just like small magnets and stuff here and there. So that was $142 US, which I think, based on what I saw other people spending, was definitely on the low end. So if you're a shopper, budget a lot more for souvenirs. And then on tipping, you tip 10% on like everything here, like restaurants, tours, all that stuff. So I spent 290 soles on tips or $86 US. That is low because, I'll be honest, I tipped my tour director like the very minimum recommended amount because, as I'll get into with the Machu Picchu part, I just wasn't very happy with her. And by the end of the trip, so that was tips. Plus, I got a massage for $50 US, and that was at Machu Picchu, so it was a little like overpriced. If you're getting one in Cusco, it's probably cheaper. So that was $50 US. Plus, I tipped 20 soles, which was $6. And then we spent $10 US on water, which was really nice. So basically, our tour director just collected $10 US from all of us, and she always had these boxes of water available for us wherever we were, literally wherever we were, like even up at Machu Picchu, which was super nice. So we always had clean drinking water wherever we were. Probably the best $10 I spent on this trip. And then other stuff, just like bathroom costs, and then we paid like a couple soles for pictures with like an alpaca. That was 8 soles or like $3 US. So I didn't really spend all that much on this trip, but it was probably more than I was expecting between the souvenirs and the food. So my total spending in soles was 1,570 soles, or just under $500 US. Again, that's definitely on the low range based on what I saw people like ordering for meals, buying for souvenirs, and then tipping. I think some people probably tipped better than me. Some people probably on the same level. It was a mixed bag of opinions there, but that was my spending. Now let's get into the drama of it all. of Machu Picchu. Like I said, my opinion of the trip has nothing to do with being stranded in Machu Picchu, just the few times that I mentioned it, like with the itinerary where we missed a day and stuff. And now I'll tell you all my thoughts on it. I'm gonna get it out before I head to the airport, leave all these thoughts in Peru. So like I said, on day 5, we went to Machu Picchu. We took the train up there at like 6:40 in the morning. Free time, we toured Machu Picchu and all that stuff. That afternoon, while we were at Machu Picchu, there was a head-on train collision on the same tracks that we took that morning. So super grateful that we weren't involved in the crash or anything. I've met people in my days since then here that were they had stuff on the train. They were on the train like right before it. They were affected by the trains and completely missed Machu Picchu, so at least we got to go. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful that everyone in my group is safe and alive and not hurt or anything, because like I said, somebody passed away in the crash, and then they were like 30 to 40 other people injured. On our way, once we finally got back on the train back down out of Machu Picchu, we passed one of the trains that crashed. Very scary to see. So originally our train was supposed to leave Machu Picchu at 7 p.m. Then our tour director told us probably like 9, and then he was like, okay, I'll just text you guys at the train station to meet at the train station when I think our train might leave. So we ended up meeting her there like a little before 11, and she was like, guys, trains aren't running anytime soon, and the first train that does run is going to get out like kids, elderly, pregnant women, stuff like that. So thankfully EF had the foresight to book us hotels as soon as the train crashed, just in case anything happened like this, which so thankfully they did. So we had hotels to stay in overnight, which was very lucky. So we were in our hotels from like 11:30 to like 5:30 in the morning maybe. Grateful they had those for us, because some people were sleeping at the train station without hotels. I heard that those people did get on very early trains, so good for them, better than us, but at least we had somewhere safe to stay. None of us had like clothes or toiletries or like meds or anything, so that was like the biggest issue, especially the meds. People had to get back to get some medicine that they were missing. If you're ever traveling, just keep your medicine on you no matter where you're going. Even if you expect to be back at your hotel that night, I would just always carry your essential meds on you. But yeah, so then we got back to the train at like 6 a.m. that morning. It kept being like, oh, it's coming soon, one's coming soon, one's coming soon. Eventually by 8:30 was like the rumored time that one was supposed to come. We all stand up, go to the doors. Our tour director is like, stay in front, stay in a group. We're gonna be like the first people on the train. Okay, great. There's not a train. A train's not coming, a train's not coming, a train's not coming. More people are coming to the train station. It's getting more crowded. People are starting to push us like towards the front of the doors. If you're from the US, you know that doors in any enclosed space have to open outward, so there's like an egress for people. Here the doors open inward, so if people kept pushing us and we were trying to get out, like it wasn't happening. It was a super dangerous situation, but our tour director just kept telling us to hang tight, hang tight, hang tight, stay calm. People were not calm. We were all holding it together, but people were crying. Like I was overheating for a point, but I was like mostly okay. I was just worried about if people kept pushing and pushing and pushing, we're gonna get stuck against these doors and we can't go anywhere. So that was like my biggest concern, was my safety, the safety of everyone in our group. So it just kept getting worse. By like 11:30, the crowd was so bad. That's when I texted the tour director. I was like, hey, like, isn't this getting unsafe? She said, no, just stay calm. It was clearly getting unsafe. If I was by myself, I would have left the crowd at that point. I don't care what time this train is coming. I can run for it at the end or whatever, or stay. I'm not putting my safety at risk in a situation like that where people are constantly pushing me up against closed doors just to get on a train. So yeah, so that's like 11:30. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Finally at like 1:30, the crowd just got too, well, before this, finally our tour director was like, okay, you guys need to start posting on social media. This is getting ridiculous. We need to like rile up this crowd. We're too peaceful. That's why they're not sending a train. So she started getting people like angry. People started pushing towards the doors more. People were yelling. It was like really scary, because you don't know how anyone is going to react in that situation, or if things are going to get like physical or dangerous or violent. Thankfully our group was like mostly calm and stuff in that situation, but that was the first point where I was like annoyed, where I was like, okay, you're getting all these people starting to push us even more towards these doors. Let's not do that. Like, let's just be peaceful. Like, there were literally the national police were there outside these doors with like the gas or what, like tear gas. They had like riot shields. Like, if we got pushed towards these doors and outside these doors, like we were effed. So that was the first point where I was like, okay, the tour director is not handling this well. Everyone's calm, everyone's peaceful. And then she just started yelling, started getting people riled up, which made people push us more. So that was like around noon, maybe between 11 and noon. Still no train at this point. And then finally at 1:30, there's a rumor that a train is coming between 1:30 and 2. People were so tired of waiting. We got pushed out the doors. It was really scary. That was like part number one, where I was like, okay, like this is putting my life at risk, because our tour director made us keep standing there and standing there and standing there. We had no food, no water, no bathroom. We couldn't escape the crowd. We got pushed out to the train tracks. Thankfully nobody like fell on the train tracks or anything, but I was at like the back of our group, which I was like okay with. Like everyone else was like crying at that point. I was fine. I can hold my own. But me and one of the guys who was in the back got like stopped by the police, and our whole group was out there, and we really had to like fight our way out. I had to like pull him out of the crowd. I was like shaking at this point, like I'm getting a little shaky still talking about it. But then our tour director, she's giving like conflicting information. She's like, okay, when the train comes, just get on a car. It doesn't matter. Everyone get on the train. And then eventually she was like, okay, actually everyone go to the right. So we're trying to like push our way through this crowd to the very right of the platform, even though we're all clearly like in the front by the train tracks. We could just get on whatever car pulls up in front of us. And then she just kept going back and forth in the group chat, changing her mind, and it just like wasn't consistent information. So everyone's like, okay, just trust her. Fine, I'll trust her, which I regret at this point. But in that moment, everyone was like, okay, just trust her. We all had like a line. We were all holding each other's backpacks, so everyone was like together. But we were like on the edge of the train tracks. Finally, the police got people to like push back, but so we had like a foot or two when the train came. But it was still like, if people started pushing, like we would have all fallen on the tracks, because we were trying to figure out what she wanted us to do, whether she wanted us to stay put or try to push to the right side of the tracks. I don't know. Or the platform. So it's just very conflicting information. If you're not gathering this by now, I don't think she handled this well. I don't think she's at the first person I blame for this situation. Inca Rail, clearly, for stranding a bunch of people at the train station is my first who I blame the most, especially because they were posting on social media and telling embassies, like the American embassy sent us a message that was like, hey, we've heard the train operations are back to normal, when they clearly weren't. A train hadn't come in like 8 hours the whole time we were at the train station. Like the situation was just getting worse. So they're my first to blame. Second is the tour director, because I don't think she handled this well, putting our safety at risk. Because then as she's giving us conflicting information, finally a train comes and she's still trying to get us to push to the right, even though a bunch of us were right in front of a car where we could have gotten on. But she's like, no, come on, push to the right of the platform. So finally, we're at the front on the tracks. The train is here. We're at the front of the tracks. We're trying to get to the right, and finally the train in front of us opens its doors. The amount of pushing from the crowd behind us was crazy. I've never been pushed like that. I'm never gonna push people first in a situation like that, but if you're pushing me towards a train, I'm gonna push back. So we're like trying to hold people back, trying to get on this train. One of the scariest moments of my life. I did get on the train. I was like on the car we were on, 8 of us got on. I was like the third one to get on, thankfully. But very scary. Like, it just really shows people's true colors in situations like that, where they're willing to put other people's lives at risk and push them and stuff just to get on a train. So like I said, Inca Rail could have organized this way better. We had 8 hours we were standing there. They couldn't have been like, okay, when this train comes, you guys are on this car, like stay in like little groups, whatever. Inca Rail, horrible. If you're gonna go up to Machu Picchu, take Peru Rail. It's the other one. It's nicer, more expensive, but better in situations like this. But yeah, so once we finally got on the train, after I was pushed into the train I was pushing into the train, and then I finally got around the police officer who was like directing people into the train. He let me on after I was like pushed into him for like 20 seconds, because he was like, all right, I gotta get this girl off of me. So once we got on the train, I was like shaking. All the other people on my car were crying. I was just trying to stay calm, so they were calm. But we finally left there at 2:45 that afternoon, which was like 20 hours later than expected. However, 8 people in our group did not make that train, probably because it was unorganized and they were trying to not prioritizing just getting on the train. They were prioritizing trusting our tour director, who I don't think was handling it right. So they didn't leave Machu Picchu till 2 hours after us. So complete mess. I really liked my tour director up until that point. Like I said, I don't blame her more than Inca Rail, because I think they could have handled it so much better. It was a mess. It was dangerous. They let us stand there in those crowds for hours. But after that, I also lost all trust and respect for my tour director, because I just didn't like the way she handled it, and she kept us in those crowds, in those unsafe situations for hours. That being said, I do think EF handled the situation as best they could. They didn't have anyone in Machu Picchu other than our tour director. Like, they got us hotels, they got us confirmed seats on a later train, just in case like an emergency one or an evacuation train didn't come, even though it did. I think they handled it well. The only thing I wasn't happy with, if you've been watching my videos, is that after that, it was so traumatic. I wanted to go home, and they wouldn't just send me home on an earlier flight without me paying $1,400, which was crazy, but it's fine. It is in their terms and conditions. I was just fighting with them over it, because I thought that they should send me after their tour director, in my opinion, put our lives at risk. So like I said, I can't be too mad that they didn't, even though I fought them to do so. But yeah, that's that. The Machu Picchu thing was nuts. Like I said, I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad we weren't on the train that crashed. I'm glad we still got to see Machu Picchu while we were here. But Inca Rail sucks. Hate them. They are disorganized. Apparently situations like that happen a lot, where people get stranded up there. Like, not a lot, but enough that like they need to get their stuff together. And then I think our tour director handled that horribly. Yeah, if I'm ever in a situation like that again, and there's like an authority figure, I will trust them to a certain point, but up until I feel like my safety is at risk, and then I'm removing myself from the situation. I don't care if I have to take a later train. Like, I can fend for myself at that point. I wasn't one of the ones who had to get back to meds, so I'd rather, obviously people did have to get on their train to get meds that night and stuff, which is why you just bring them with you. But of course, we didn't know that was going to happen, and that was the priority for certain people. But for me, it would be staying safe and not being pushed into a train, pushed into closed doors, pushed into police officers, stuff like that. Especially police officers with riot gear, tear gas, stuff like that. So if that situation ever comes back, I am trusting myself and removing myself from the situation as soon as I feel like my safety is a risk. But yeah, that's why you missed day 6 at the Sacred Valley. If you're still here, thank you for listening. It was a dramatic trip. It was like between the Machu Picchu situation, the flight delays at the beginning, some drunk drama, some racism, some guy got his phone stolen in Cusco during New Year's Eve. It has just been a mess. Like I said, my review of the trip has nothing to do with being stranded at Machu Picchu, because I think that EF did a great job handling it and did all they could from like 5,000 miles away. My issues are with other people and companies. So that's my story. I am wrapping this up because I have to get to the airport to get out of here. I'm leaving Peru. I will say it's a beautiful country. The food is very good. The people are nice. But I think if they didn't have Machu Picchu, this tour would either not exist or it wouldn't be very popular. I've heard that this is people's favorite tours, and I don't understand it at all, I'll be honest, because like I said, it's a lot of sitting and bus days for not much. And then I don't know, I feel like there were only like 2 or 3 days where we actually did something where I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then the other days were just like, eh. So that's my opinion. If you want more information, like the hotels we stayed in, the price I paid for the trip, my more thoughts, I have a blog post with a review of the trip in the description. Also put the hotel links and stuff there. Like I said, if you're still here, thank you so much for listening to this. I'm glad I got all that out before I left Peru, because I'm leaving all of this in Peru. Maybe I'll come back one day and see more, but at this point, I'm not sure I need to. Like I said, once you see Machu Picchu, you can see more, but you don't need to. But yeah, I still have 2 more Peru videos coming for you, so stay tuned for those. I am not going on an EF Ultimate Break trip for another like 8 months, so there will be a big gap, and that's not because of this, that's just how my schedule has worked. So a lot of solo travel videos coming up, which I cannot wait to share with you. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm sure you've done those things if you're still listening to my rant, review, whatever. But I am gonna go get out of this country, go home, see my family, see my cats, after what a long week and a half it's been. Possibly the longest week and a half of my life. So adios, Peru.